Peak oil and gas. Too many energy pundits assume peak oil cannot happen. Few appreciate the flimsy nature of most key oil and gas data, and few grasp how savage a post-peak oil world can be and how swift a tipping point could happen. So my big question, as I pondered this last week, are with Gustav and Ike, the initial tremors of a coming Big Bang crisis. Many assume that Ike and Gustav merely grazed America's oil and gas complexes. Initial reports last Monday indicated that normality should return within weeks. The deterioration of those reports that happened throughout the week was stunning. The recent collapse in petroleum prices has created a false sense that somehow all of our problems may be behind us, and these two events could soon reveal serious cracks in the crumbling energy foundation. What we know thus far about the hurricane aftermath is that the Gulf of Mexico oil and gas production has been off stream since early September, and so far, as of last week, we've lost about 30 million barrels of oil. There are reports over the weekend that some of the facilities will come back probably by next week or the week after, and other facilities maybe in a matter of months. Many key refineries and gas plants are still shut down or barely producing. Loop in the Gulf of Mexico import system has been seriously crimped now for the better part of two. I think that's all now flowing smoothly, but the Houston Ship Channel still has some depth restrictions. These events are draining key crude stocks and depleting critical gasoline and diesel pools as we speak. And no one knows how much longer this can last before scarcity sets in. So how exposed is America's petroleum supply for a run on the bank that maybe could exceed the swift run on the bank of the Bear or Freddie Mac or Freddie Mae? With the lower we draw down crude, gasoline, heating oil, and diesel stocks, the closer we move towards breaching minimum operating levels. After minimum operating levels are breached, shortages become imminent. And the fear of scarcity encourages users to top off the tank. And topping off tanks creates literally a run on the bank. Who are the likely culprits? Refiners for scarce crude, jobbers for finished product, all service stations, heating oil distributors, petrochemical users, and then the ultimate risk carrier is the residential consumer. Let me give you an example of how fast we could break the gas pool bank. America has, in rough numbers, 220 million passenger vehicles. Assume each average vehicle holds about 20 gallons. Assume that the average tank now has about 5 gallons in it, which is probably not a bad number. Topping off would basically increase 15 gallons times 200 and many cars, so it would be a stock draw of 78 million barrels. As of last Friday, a week ago Friday, our current finished motor gasoline stocks, as reported by the EIA in the United States, excluding blending supplies, were 87 million barrels. It was also interesting that this was the lowest finished stock gasoline stocks we've had in the United States since 1969. So, this would create a real crisis. What happens when usable stocks deplete? Well, vehicles stop until the system gets refilled. And without transportation, America's food supply is in jeopardy within probably a week or less. And the economy slows to a crawl, and financial markets panic. And energy risk is finally grasped in its raw sense. If heating oil also becomes scarce, a cold winter will be a disaster in the United States. America's heating oil is already at a near all-time low, and a few weeks of winter could deplete our usable stocks. We have 9 to 10 million homes in America that rely 100% on heating oil for winter heat. So the implications for the northeastern states, if we had a cold winter for any duration, would be catastrophic. Migration or hypothermia, and bankruptcy costs for heat. So is the size of our oil markets also too big to fill? The global petroleum use is now around 85 plus million barrels a day. That is the world's single largest industrial market by a factor of several-fold. Since it's so big, is it like Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae? And the answer is no. There's no parallels at all because there are no energy regulators, there is no audited data, and there are no firewalls. The world is totally at risk with no insurance policy because we have no Federal Reserve with the energy toolbox. Are there any other risks that become tipping points? Yes, the choke points for supply, the Straits of Malacca. Straits of Malacca, 70-mile stretch where the water is so shallow that basically you have to hole up on both ends until you get sort of a mean tide, is now transporting about 12 million barrels a day of crude oil to Singapore and every place which direction we're going east of there, so that Asia can basically enroll. One tanker accident in the Straits of Malacca, one single tanker accident would be a lights out event. The Straits of Hormuz, the Yucatan-Cuba passage that gets shut down when a hurricane comes in, and all the other points. Do we have any insurance policy or disaster recovery plan? We have a limited strategic petroleum reserve that should not be used to manage prices. We should take... We have basically, in rough numbers, 700 million barrels of not very high quality crude in our strategic petroleum reserve. That is the only insurance policy the United States of America has to mitigate against the fact that Luke could have been destroyed during night. And so to fool around with saying, let's just manage some oil out of that so we tamp down prices is irresponsible actions beyond my wildest imagination. Could an energy pandemic really happen? Is this scary set of scenarios just a thriller movie? And how long would it take to go from half empty to out of gas? If America had a run on our energy bank, could this trigger a global topping off of our tanks? Well, the world is sleepwalking through these energy events. Most global leaders have no idea of any of these risks are so real. Peak oil as a term is only slightly still understood by America's political and business leaders. And those who warned were called alarmists, pessimists, oil bulls, wolf criers. It took 5 months to melt down our key financial institutions. Last Monday, Alan Greenspan said what has just occurred is a once-in-a-century event. Bear Stearns' run on the bank happened in 2 days. Lehman Brothers finale took 4 days to happen. AIG debacle occurred in 2 days. And too many key financial players kept assuring each other that the worst is far behind us while things got worse and worse. Energy markets can unwind faster. A global run on the energy bank would happen in less than a 30-day window. It would take a decade plus to rebuild any genuine energy cushion. This is the most serious global risk of the 21st century. So risk is real, and energy risk is real risk squared. And finally, here are a few energy oxymorons that refocus on risk. Here's some fashionable energy oxymorons that I hear too often. We need energy independence. Brutal energy reality, 100% impossible to create. We will never have energy independence. Oxymoron number 2, technology is a game changer. Brutal reality is technology has had zero impact on any of these risks. If anything, it highlighted the risk. Oxymoron number 3, we can drill our way out of this mess. Brutal reality, we have no spare rigs and few places to drill with any timely high impact. Oxymoron number 4, our energy system is efficient and transparent. Reality, we live in a dark world of hidden data, unlike Wall Street, which had light, but we didn't see it. This problem cannot be so ominous. Yes, it actually is so ominous because oil and gas is truly our industrial oxygen. And without oxygen, our system soon dies. All past crises were also ignored until they crossed the tipping point, and our tipping point might be just around the corner and coming soon. Peak oil is the singular, most ominous risk of the 20th century, so thanks, ASPO, for highlighting these risks.
Matt, I'm curious, in this time of financial peril and trouble and strife and catastrophe, some people are calling it, what set of policies or rhetoric or language you might hear from the presidential candidates would make you bullish on America again? Would make you want to go long the U.S.? I'm dead serious.